Hello guys, it's Chocolate here doing another Bakugan review. This time we have Ikki Tosen, the most rare Bakugan of the Bakugan Armors line, but not exactly the most interesting one either, so yeah, anyway. So anyway, let's go and open this thing up. Opens up like that. That's really all there is to it, but yeah, you also have some manual parts. The feet here flip out. Also, there's this little feather kind of thing that flips out up here. And there you go, that is Ikki Tosen. That's all there is to him. So, yeah, anyway. So, as far as how much I like this thing before we get anything interesting, I'll give this one like a 7 out of 10. It has a pretty basic design, but it's also just translucent yellow, which in some ways is worse, because it's kind of boring, but at the same time it is a pretty striking appearance, I will say. It's hard to mix this thing up with anything else, so it is unique, decent design. Also, I'm just biased because it is kind of rare, so I do like it. 7 out of 10. Now let's get into the actual interesting stuff with this Bakugan. So, how good is this thing and what does it do? First up, you have the soul pieces. These are plastic. You can swap them out for metal, which I guess can get more weight, some ability to have spin shots, but nothing that great. Just kind of alright in that sense. I will grant it the metal because, for the sake of the review, I mean, you probably would run this thing with metal if you were to, for some reason, actually use it. So, yeah, we can at least grant it that. Now, one big thing with this thing is the G power. It is 750 Gs. It's a little bit hard to see on the backdrop of the translucent plastic, but it is right here, 750 Gs. So, the reason that's important is because every other Armor Bakugan actually has 2 possible G powers. Now, there's only one with a lower max than 750, but most of them have a 750 max. There's only 2 with higher maxes, 760 and 770. But then there's the minimum. Now, the minimum G power for every Bakugan is, well, 730 or lower. One is 720, another one is 710. So, yeah, 730 or lower is a big possibility if you get an Armor Bakugan. However, with Ikki Tosen, 750 Gs, even though it's not the highest, it is static, so it does not change. It will always be 750 Gs, which is important because, again, that means if you were to actually get an Armor Bakugan, this gives you a guarantee of getting a good G power, which is, I think, worth considering. And don't get me wrong, 750, that is still plenty respectable. I mean, that ties the max power of a, 720 plus 30G Gigantorgone. It ties a 730G Zetamunicus if it hits on, 20G, boost, which is good, which means, it beats it half the time, ties a quarter of the time, loses only a quarter of the time, so not as bad. And aside from that, I mean, only other things that can really beat it are, those other 2 Armor Bakugan, Okanhao or Yashigaris, or, a Blue Dao Civic plus Savic. But with all that said, yeah, it generally still competes very well, and it doesn't have that risk of a minimum that would make it worse. So having a static 70 Gs, I would say this is like the best in that sense. The best, well, third best Bakugan, Armor Bakugan for G power, because it doesn't have a lower risk. It just loses to the other 2 because they do have higher maxes. Anyway, as far as the attribute goes, it is Chaos. This is the only attribute to have 2 Bakugan Armors, Bakugan representing it, although this is definitely the worst of the attribute arms. The other one is better. Also, you have the ability ×2. So what does ×2 actually do? So, of course, when you land, you start a G power battle, you get a gate bonus, and ×2 allows you to get the gate bonus twice. It just gives you whatever bonus you already got a second time, which is good and bad. It has the same sort of setup as, like Shibuzeku, with being Ventus and plus Wind. Of course, just gets the Ventus one twice. Or next week's Bakugan, Okanhao, which gets, Chaos and, well, plus Light gives it the Chaos bonus again. In fact, Okanhao and Ikki Tosen are functionally the same when used in stock. The difference is how they work if you plug them into other Bakugan. Things like plus Wind or plus Light, that just gives you a specific attribute as a second bonus, or again, if you pair it with its original version, just the base bonus twice. With times 2, it can plug into any attribute arm and just gives that attribute bonus twice. So you do lose out on coverage, which I do think is a net negative, but if you do hit on your attribute well, you're gonna hit pretty well. And that's kind of just how times 2 works. It is, I mean, again, it kind of just goes all or nothing on one attribute versus having coverage of being able to have 2 possible attributes giving you a third chance to get a decent bonus. Or hey, maybe you hit on both and well, it's great. The problem with times 2 though, it's simply outclassed by free select, which I'll get to in a few weeks, but free select just kind of destroys, again, plus wind, plus light, and times 2, and yeah, times 2, while maybe you could argue there is some use cases for it of over plus wind or plus light, ultimately, yeah, it doesn't mean anything when you have free select, so it's kind of a worthless ability. So with that in mind, how good is Ikki Tosen? I'll give it a 5 out of 10. It is okay. I think it is the worst Bakugan Armors Bakugan physically. It's very comparable to Shippo in that sense, where yes, I don't think it really has anything going on. Even something like, Hadokayo is better for double stands, I would say. So it's just kind of like Shippo where it just exists. But Shippo does have the benefit of at least coming with metal souls, which is helpful. This one, yeah, if you plug them in, okay, then they're like on par, I would say. But again, you got to get it from another Armors Bakugan, which is not exactly easy with how expensive these are. But anyway. So it is pretty garbage physically. However, again, it has 70 Gs, which is always a good thing. And yeah, you still have times 2. You definitely have potential to have insane G power. I mean, you already have really good G power as is, but is it worth using over like a 750G Dragon Dragon or Zeta Municus? No. Or even other Armors Bakugan? Maybe not. But again, you do still have the potential there to be very high G power. And yes, that will beat out like a lot of Bakutech. The vast majority of them in G powers. It's just that it doesn't have anything really going for it physically. So I will be lowering what I would otherwise give it to, just a 5. Because yes, you have the G power, but it's not good enough to warrant anything higher. And yeah, physically it's pretty garbage. So anyways, it's all for Ikki Tosen. It's a pretty rare Bakugan, but yeah, I mean, competitively speaking, it's underwhelming. But that's that. So anyways, next week will be Ogan Habo, the other Chaos Bakugan, which is the last of the kind of more boring Bakugan for Bakugan Armors. However, that one's definitely the least boring of the 3. It's has a little bit more going for it physically. So we'll talk about that next week. But anyways, that's all for today. So thanks for watching, and bye-bye.